Okay, so here we go, we're back out in the woods, and for this installment we're going to talk a little bit about pine trees and using pine trees to create a glue, something that's called pine pitch or pine tar. So I'm just keeping an eye out just in case anybody comes, because I got caught doing one of these videos there and I feel a bit of an idiot. Never mind. So I'm just going to turn you, if that works. Oops. So here we are. We're in the middle of the trees, and just nice path there. It's a lovely day, and we're amongst a little standing of pine trees. Now we're quite unfortunate. The council have come along about 6 weeks ago, and you see they've cut down a number of the branches from these pine trees, and that's actually scarring the tree. And what happens is the pine trees, especially in weather like this, it can leach out the pine resin. So it's this kind of whitish sort of material you can see coming out, and like this doesn't do any harm to the tree. The tree is in effect throwing this resin out to try and heal itself, but it's very good for making this prehistoric glue or tar. So what we're going to do is we're going to collect a little bit of it, and you can see there's a scar in the tree. You can see loads of it there. That's all good stuff. So we've got a little pot here, and we are going to use, if I can get them here, going to use our flint flakes to scrape off some of this resin and collect it in our little pot. And one of the reasons why I like to use a flint flake is this stuff is incredibly sticky, and if you use a knife it can actually ruin your blade. So this stuff, what you're actually looking for is the white material. You can see it leaches out of the damage done to the trees, but if that'll focus a wee bit there, it actually hardens and it's very crumbly when you squeeze it between your fingers. And the smell of it is it's got a real kind of almost an industrial sort of pine smell to it. It's actually lovely stuff. It reminds me of my granny's bathroom. Really kind of strong, kind of pine chemically smell to it. So that's the stuff we're going to harvest, and we're going to collect it into the little pot there using our flint flakes. And I'll have to pause the video at this point because I've only got two hands. No help with me today. Okay, so I'll check back with you in a little while. So you can see how quickly you can actually gather the stuff, and how quickly you just see the end of the flint flake there, that it actually builds up, and you can understand why it would actually ruin a knife. You don't get an awful lot from the tree, so it's just a case of taking a wee dander around and trying to find somewhere. There's quite a lot there. Okay, so you can see from the stuff that I've already collected, there's quite a lot of impurities in it. There's bits of bark and wee bits of pine needles and all in it as well. And you could spend your time going through that and kind of picking these little impurities out and refining it more. But I don't really bother, because it does the job what we want to do with it. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to fill this little pot up, and then we'll start processing it down. It's really sticky stuff. And it's just a case of going around scraping by the tree. And like, this isn't going to do the tree any damage whatsoever. The tree will bounce back. It'll produce more resin to replace the stuff that I'm actually taking off. So you're not biting into the tree, into the wood itself, you're just scraping that real resiny stuff off. Ugh. So we're getting there. Nearly got our pot full. We'll go on and see, can we get any more? As you see, we've loads of trees up here, loads of possible sites where we can actually harvest this resin from. So this is all the resin that we've collected from the pine trees up the hill. So you can see it's actually quite dirty. We've got quite a lot of bits of bark and pine needles and all in it, and you could separate all that out, but I'm not going to bother. So to make this pine resin we need two other ingredients. We need charcoal, and this is some of the charcoal that we made in our charcoal kiln just up in the back garden. So we're going to have to grind that up and mix it once we melt the pine resin. Once we melt it down to liquid, we mix in the pine resin, the charcoal into it. But as well, what we need is some sort of a fibrous sort of material. Now you could use the likes of dried rabbit droppings or something like that, but I don't have any. So basically any sort of fibrous material. I'm just using a wee bit of lint from the tumble dryer, and we have dogs here. It's got a wee bit of dog hair and all in it, so it'll do it. Really, you're using that just as like a binding agent to kind of stitch the whole thing together, and the charcoal gives it a wee bit of that sort of flexibility, and the pine resin will go hard. Okay, so we have our fire lit. We're just waiting for that to go down a wee bit, and then we will put the pine resin back in our little pot, put it on the fire and melt it, and in the meantime we'll grind up the charcoal into a kind of like a powder. Okay, once we get that done we'll check back with you. So that's all the resin in the little pot there, and what I've done, I've made a little kind of a bed in the coals, just where I'm going to set the pot and let it melt. So I'm obviously safety first. I'm using my welding gloves that you saw in the forging videos and the pliers, so I'm not going to be exposed to the flames at all. So I'm just going to rest that little pot in there and we'll let it heat up, and hopefully the heat will start taking it and the pine resin will start melting. So this is the first time I've done this. I'm not sure how long it's going to take, although if you can just see on the very edge of the pot it's starting to bubble. So let that bubble away for a few minutes and I'll come back to you. So hopefully you can see that alright, it's starting to bubble away as the resin's actually melting. And you can actually see where the impurities are scorching or burning, so maybe I should have taken them out. But oh, it's actually set fire now. I'm sure it'll be alright. The smell is absolutely gorgeous. It's that lovely kind of pine smell. We'll keep her going. I might move her out a wee bit. Now, I hope the neighbours appreciate this lovely smell. So you can see it's bubbling away. It'll not be too long now. So once it's actually done, I'll take it out. I've already crushed the charcoal, and I'll add that and the kind of fibrous material to it. And then hopefully we'll have pine glue. So you can see it's a lovely kind of consistency. It's not completely melted just yet, but she's getting there. Of course the wind's getting up. Oh. Now, I think that's time to go in. Just put it down on the pot. So here we have our charcoal all ground up into a nice fine powder, and you're looking sort of similar quantities of charcoal to the pine resin. There's the pine resin there, it's all nice and melted, still melted. And you just want a tiny little bit of the fibrous material. Just add that, and that just gives it a wee bit of gusto, a wee bit of strength. Oops. There's the wind blowing around everywhere. And then we add the charcoal. Okay, sit around this way. Okay, right. Get our wee stick. Mix that all together until we get sort of what we're looking for, sort of a tar sort of consistency. Okay, so I'll mix this together and come back to you. This is just a case of it there. You're tipping your stick in and trying to get it all to stick at the end. So what we're looking at the end is a nice big glob of stuff at the end of the stick. And then it's actually cool enough to touch now. You just kind of mold it onto the end of your stick. And that dries. That dries and go incredibly hard. And there you go. It's pine glue. So when you come to use that, you just heat up the end of it. It'll turn it back into kind of a sticky liquid form. And use that just to attach your little flint into its handle, and you can see it's completely hard. Okay, look, that's pine glue.